Welcome to another episode of the Uncle Greg Show podcast, where we talk about all things related to the personal safety of black folks. On this episode, we will be discussing the Patrick Lyoya shooting. So let's get to it. All right. I'd like to welcome you all again to another episode of the Uncle Greg Show and podcast, where we talk about things all related to safety, personal safety, especially particularly personal safety as it relates to our community. And once again, I'm joined by my three brothers, Ross, Kent, and Roger. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on?
How was your Easter week?
Good.
I had a pretty good Easter. Ate well, recovered from my 11-day vacation going to Chicago and to Vegas for the first time, spending all that time on the strip and spending too much money.
Vegas is a 3-day trip for me because after the third day, I'm like, it's time to go.
It's time to go, yeah. We paid for it, but it was, we spent a lot of money eating and stuff, but that was good. It was under $1,000, but geez, it was expensive. So
yeah. What about you, Kent?
Oh, hey, just went out of town, spent time with the family, came back, chased the grandkids around, worked. So, hey, nothing out the ordinary for me. Nothing exciting like, Vegas. So
no kidding. Mine was pretty much the same. I think, Roger, you had a basketball game?
Yeah, my sons, they play AAU. They play AAU basketball. So I'm at their practice.
Oh, okay.
They play on the weekend. So Noah had 3 games this weekend. They were going to try and have them play Sunday. And we were like, oh, no, that's, it's a Sunday. We want to chill and eat and stuff like that. So
let's say it. We're going to talk about, you talked about, Noah, what you tell them in terms of how to deal with encounters with the police. And that's exactly what we're talking about today, particularly in light of what happened to Patrick Lyoya. Am I saying that right? I don't want to mispronounce it. Okay.
I think it's Lyoya, something like that.
Lyoya, okay. Patrick Lyoya, in Grand Rapids was shot and killed by a police officer after a traffic stop. And, you think about this, and as we said before, this happens far too often. It's always talked about, but nothing ever changes, it seems. And it's just, it prompted me to put something together, and I'll talk about that later. But, I've titled this episode the same thing, the same name I titled the project, and it's simple. Stop getting killed by the cops.
Yeah.
Because, statistics have shown us that black people are killed, especially black men, are killed at far higher rates than anyone else in this country when it comes to contact with the police. And that's not just overall, particularly unarmed black people and black males. And, this is not an accident. It's not an operation. It's not a coincidence. This is a pattern that happens on a frequent basis. And we hear about, or we see the ones that are recorded.
Right.
And I guarantee you that's a small percentage of what's actually going on, because I found out through my own research that police departments generally don't report police shootings where you can actually keep the statistics. And the people that actually keep statistics on these things, they have to pull it from all types of different sources, including news agencies, news reports, social media and things like that. Otherwise, these things would go unnoticed or unreported. And you have to look at somebody in the case of was Ahmaud Arbery. If it hadn't been for his family continuously pushing, that would have been swept under the rug. It wasn't police related per se. Well, it wasn't a police incident. We could call it police related, similar to George Zimmerman. But for his parents making that noise, this would have never been heard of. And how many others have been swept under the rug?
Yeah.
But we're going to get into some strategies and some things to do and to better protect ourselves, particularly our youth and their encounters with the police. We'll discuss some of those. And that's primarily what I'm working on in this project. It'll be a video with some tips, things you can do, because we talked about this before. Kent and I, we had lengthy discussions about the talk, what it's meant in the Black community. And the talk needs, and we said this, needs to be updated. It's not relevant. A lot of incidents. I was reading this organization had put out some tips, and I was looking at all the tips they put out, when dealing with the police for Black people when they're dealing with the police. And what's so interesting about these tips is like it's putting all the responsibility on Black people. Like the police bear no responsibility. It basically said, don't piss them off and you'll survive. Now, there's a grain of truth in that, but hey, who's the public servant here?
Right.
So, but I don't want to go too deep in this right now. We'll discuss it later. I'd just like to get you guys' thoughts on this incident, what we can possibly do about it.
Well, I'll go first. One thing that, we see now, I know they were wrestling. I think, the guy was in the car, then he ran off, which in itself is, you shouldn't be running.
Right.
Now, Greg, I'm going to pose a question back to you. You've been a police officer for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have probably gotten into a few skirmishes. Maybe you had to tackle somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've been in that situation that officer was in several times. And well, let me, in case you guys didn't see the video, because I have the full video. They took.
Yeah, I've seen the full video.
Okay, did you? And I'm trying to remember the organization. I want to say it's M Live. They put together the body cam from the cop, the dash cam, and the footage from Patrick's passenger that was in his car. And they put it in chronological order, so it gives you a pretty good perspective of what happened. And basically what happened was Patrick got pulled over, and the cop asked him, I got to be honest. At first, I thought he might have been high or intoxicated because he was very slow to answer. The cop was
Remember, he got out of the car first too, Greg.
He did. Oh, thank you. He did.
He got out of the car.
You never get out unless the cop tells you to get out. Right. And he got out. The cop told him to get back in the car. He didn't get back in the car.
No.
And the cop told him why he stopped him. And he said, do you have he asked him, did he understand what he was saying? Did he speak English? And eventually he answered, because he was very reluctant to answer at all. And then he said, yes, I have a drive. He said, where is it? And he says, it's in the car. And so he said, well, you get it. And when he reached in, he started going to the car. Then he took off running. Right. And that's when the officer grabbed him. A struggle ensued. He broke free. And then he took off running. He ran out of the street, and he was running across some lawns where he was eventually tackled by the officer. The officer, they got up off the ground and went down. They were struggling. The officer was trying to tase him. He tried to tase him twice, but Patrick kept blocking it, and he missed. The taser didn't make contact with his skin, and then Patrick grabbed the taser. They went down to the ground, struggled some more. He kept telling him to let go of the taser, which I don't think he did. And then the police officer put the gun to his back of his head, and he shot him and killed him.
Yeah, fired him. Yep.
So
he did too. One portion of it too that I think is kind of important, and I think the officer got pissed off because he did tell him twice why he was stopping him. Because he asked me, he said, do you know that the plates that you have on the car don't match?
Don't match, exactly.
So the first indication is, okay, this might be a stolen car.
Right.
Or I'm thinking from the cop's perspective too, this might be a jacking.
Mm-hmm.
Never know and stuff. Whatever.
Right.
So I understood everything that the cop was going through. In my eyes, the defendant was wrong. Then he takes off running. But where the cop was wrong at, you never escalate something like that to death. Nobody's supposed to die for something like that. And you're going to put it to the back of his head like you executing him to?
And that was my point. That's why I wanted to ask Greg his point of view, because he's been in that situation before. Right. I never heard of you shooting anybody in the back of the head.
Oh, no. I would, now, personally, in my experience, my gun never made contact with anybody's skin. See, I don't care if it's their stomach, their back, and definitely not the back of their head. If I had to pull my gun out, I wanted distance between me and that person when I fired. You know, no contact wound, because if I'm that close, that means I've allowed myself to get into a position where they can put hands on me. And I want you to think about this. If I'm struggling with a guy and he's trying to grab my gun, that's one thing. But if I'm on top of a guy and he refuses to comply, why do I stay on top of him and put my gun to the back of his head as opposed to releasing him and standing and backing off?
Right.
You know,
that's the question that I want to answer, and you answered.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you have to, he had already fired his taser twice, I believe. And at that point, the taser becomes a contact weapon, I believe, because there are no more darts to fire, obviously, until he puts another cartridge in there. But the thing is, if you had released him, and I, you know, I'm not Monday morning quarterback, but I'm telling you, it's things I saw that I know in my experience I would have handled differently, and a lot of other cops would have as well. But at that point, he has your taser. He has to use it as a contact weapon. You know, you think you would have backed off of him and stepped back with your weapon drawn and then given him commands and see if he was going to comply then. Because this guy never knew that the officer pulled his gun. And he could have gotten a totally different response if the guy had looked up and saw the gun in his hand and said, oh, okay, wait a minute, I'm through struggling.
Right.
Then he could have complied. But, you know, he never got the chance to do that.
Right. So, you know, to me, that's okay. Like Ross said, you know, the person, you know, lost his life, shouldn't have ran off, but it wasn't worth him dying over, whatever.
No.
If he stole a vehicle, you know, whatever. And, you know, the police officer, was pissed off, probably improperly trained, and again, doesn't view black men as any type of human being.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's too many stories out there where we're treated, you know, if this had been an elderly, non-black person, white, Oriental, I don't think that situation would have happened. Right. You know, that person wouldn't have had his head blown off. Right. So again, what do we do to stop this craziness?
Yeah, it looks like you see these incidents, and it oftentimes look like moves of subjugation. And that's what probably got them. Didn't I tell you what to do? And, you know, I mean, in this particular case, though, I didn't think the cop was being overly aggressive. He did at first. He was like, hey, do you understand or do you realize that this plate doesn't match this vehicle? And then that's when it all started. And then if you arrest him, that's what I was going to ask you, Greg. There's no training for something like that. You're a single cop pulling somebody over and they resist. Cop should have put himself in that position too.
Well, and that's true, Ross, because when the guy, first off, if I pull you over and you get out of the car, I'm not coming up to the car.
Right.
You know, I'm going to stay for a position of advantage for my own safety, and I'm going to order you back in the car. And then I'm going to wait to see what you do. If you get back in the car, fine. I might have you put, now it's two, you got to remember, there are two people in this car. That cop never paid attention to the second person. If that guy had a gun instead of a cell phone recording this incident, that cop could have been dead.
Yeah.
But as I was saying, you know, I order you back in your car. If you comply, fine. I'm going to tell you, put your hands out the window so I can see it put on the dashboard. And that goes for both of you, particularly when I pull over a car and the license plate doesn't match.
Right.
You know? Right. But if you make the decision, well, I'm out the car, I'm running, at least I'm in a position where I can either chase you in the car or I can put it out, or I'm going to put it out on the radio, both either way, or I can chase you on foot. Right. But I'm going to maintain a safe distance until I get you in a position where I can get you under control. Absolutely. You know, you notice when you watch the video, you'll notice it took a very long time for officers to get there. He put out on the radio he needed assistance. He didn't say, you know, he started some other cars where, you know, honestly, he should have stressed the urgency of the situation. Where he said, you know, I need assistance and get some guys over here. And the dispatcher asked, okay, he said, roll up. And the dispatcher dispatchers are supposed to remain calm, but the dispatcher is supposed to stop all other traffic and let everybody know that the officer needs assistance and we need to get over there as quickly as possible. And to me, I didn't hear that happen. It was just a pretty nonchalant incident. You know, maybe if he had gotten officers over there sooner, Patrick would still be alive.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of things, not just on the cops act, but as far as procedures are concerned. That goes all the way in the process of how they handle the call over the radio.
Yeah. And I didn't see the footage of the passenger. Never saw the passenger.
Yeah,
but I knew from reading the article there was someone on the passenger side of the vehicle too.
Right.
Hey, Ken, welcome back.
The passenger, from the dash cam video, the passenger got out of the car and he started recording. The minute they started running across the lawn, and sense. He was trying to tell the cop what to do. He said, "Oh man, don't hold him like that. Don't stop treating him like that." And he was just and that's the thing. Another thing, instead of just telling your friend, "Look, man, you could get killed doing this. Why don't just calm down and do what he said?" Yeah, he never told him. He never told him and something else that was really something. If I'm standing there and I just saw a cop shoot my friend in the back of the head, I'm not gonna stand there like, okay, you just shot him. I mean, he didn't jump like he was shot. It was like it was no emotion about it at all.
That's great. Yeah,
and it was just really sad all the way around. Let me throw this in there though. We discussed this early. Like you said, Kent, like you said, Ross, you shouldn't have run and, don't run from the police because all you're doing is escalating the situation.
Right.
But definitely don't run if you got on flip-flops.
Oh, did you see that? I think his pants was kind of hanging a little bit.
His pants were hanging down, and what was really sad, he died with his pants down. And that was really,
especially for a man. Come on.
Exactly, man. It was just real. It's embarrassing. I just saw that and I'm just like, man, this is really sad. It's really sad.
And I don't know where he thought he was going with flip-flops in his pants.
And he was trying to pull his pants up. The whole time he was running. Didn't work. Yep. That's one of the reasons he failed. He got caught.
Yeah, that's why he failed. That's why he got caught. That's why he ended up on his face, too. I'm like, come on. But the cop clearly escalated that. At that point and stuff, whatever, I'd rather he just hit him in the back of the head or something, whatever. Want to pull a gun out and fire point blank to stick it on the back of his neck and then fire. That was, that's when I lost it there. I was like, okay, is this another one of them? Come on, dude.
Yeah, and it was. It turns out. Raj, you want to add anything in this?
From the article, I haven't seen the video, but from the article, as I was reading, I heard how the mom was speaking. And, I know that they relocated from the Congo. What stopped me in the article for a moment was saying that he got out of the car because he was very confused. And, obviously there's probably laws that are different in Republic of Congo versus what he may have not understood here. And, my thing is, and I'm all in agreement with what you all are saying too, especially within aspects of him taking off running, call dispatch, speak about the severity of the issue, because cop being a wise enough, if you see there's even a language barrier, you say, hey, look, I'm going to need some additional help because obviously there could be a number of other things going on with this man mentally. We never know. Yeah. And I think those are the things that I feel cops need to really think from a psychological standpoint versus just reacting. Be proactive and kind of think to yourself, okay, I'm dealing with somebody that might be mentally unstable. So let me call dispatch. And then of course, if he fell down and got him on the ground, do whatever you got to do to restrain him and then continue to call for backup versus, pulling the gun out, because that was just a very cowardly move on the behalf of that cop to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't bring back a life. I mean, you could have said, hey, stop restraining. And of course, the guy's friend should say, hey, man, look, chill out. Instead versus saying, cop, don't do that. No, tell your friend he needs to chill.
Exactly.
Just how unfortunate. But,
Roger,
I think,
No, I'm saying, Roger, before I finish it, though, but just want to touch on this one point. That's what I was looking at in the video, too. I'm thinking, maybe this guy has a problem with understanding the language. Yeah. When the cop asked him, do you speak English? He said, yes. That changed the whole paradigm right there. I'm like, wait a minute. If you don't understand it, don't answer. Obviously, he did because he said yes when he asked him. then that changed because that changed the paradigm right there. That changed the thought pattern for me. So
and the thing about it is what I've learned in like this recent communication seminar I did. They say typically if you want to, if you're not getting clear, if you want to make something clear to somebody and have them respond, don't ever ask them closed-ended questions. The cops should say, hey, how good is your English? How well do you know the English language? Instead of asking, do you speak English? He's going to say, yeah, of course. But
yes,
did he know whether or not, if that's a second language, even if I happen to hear he has an accent, I'm like, where are you from? How long you been here?
Yeah.
Okay, how well do you know the English language? Okay, you know what? And then obviously, if the guy takes off running and say, hey, I got somebody on foot, do the best you can to chase him. He fell down. Hey, look, all right, I got him down. I need backup. If anything, train these officers, to actually work with, not just with discharging their weapons, but teach them some hand-to-hand defense, aspects of like self-defense.
He tried that, Rod. He tried that. He did try.
Yeah, that's an ass. It looked like
he did try some self-defense. Yeah, he tried kicking him.
Okay.
He tried kneeing him in the side, which I've been through that type of training as well. But it's interesting you talked about asking open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Because he asked him. He says, "Do you speak English?" And the guy finally said, "Yes." And he says, "What you stop me for?" And he told him. He says, "Do you have a driver's license?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Where is it?" And he says, "It's in the car." Now, what was also interesting is that during the struggle, you actually heard him talking to the cop, telling him, I'm just a black man. It was garbage. He was speaking English to the cop. So, that language barrier, I doubt, had that much of an impact on what happened. I believe the guy knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah,
and there's a reason he ran in the front. If you're that scared of the police, one, most people that are scared of police do two things. They're not going to stop in the first place when you try to pull them over. Okay. Yeah. The second thing is if they do stop, they're going to get out of the car and take off running. They're not going to wait for you to come up there and start asking them a bunch of questions.
And that should have been a sign that, you know what? That automatically should have been a sign to the cop. Okay, this guy got out of the car. Okay. Hey, so-and-so, I'm on the radio. I made a traffic stop. The guy's gotten out of his car. So if you guys can send someone by, I don't know, we may have a situation.
Right.
And like you said, stand at a distance, say, hey, could you get back in your car? And what I said, hey, I just need to explain your verses because I think as he approached him, he got nervous and who knows what else he might have been in the car with the friend where they were going. Who knows?
Exactly.
So there's he was nervous. So there's things that could have, also played on behalf of Lyoya's part. Mm-hmm. We just won't know that because the cop took a cowardly move and took his life.
Right.
Hey, Greg, question
go
for
ahead.
you. When you see these scenarios too, and they may not be very common. I mean, probably maybe more common than I've seen. You like this last incident with this guy here in Grand Rapids. Does that elicit a training film now or training session based on what happened in this incident? It's footage taken and then talked
they
about.
Debrief. There's a debriefing. Okay. Now you got to remember something. We look at this from a rational standpoint, and we'll look at it and say, okay, they could have done this better. They could have done that better. This guy shouldn't have run. You can't make the assumption that every law enforcement agency that debriefs doesn't debrief debriefs it in an objective manner. There are some, and in some law enforcement, I'm not saying this is one of them, but they'll debrief it with their biases being interjected in the response. So,
in response to that, comment on this too. This is Grand Rapids. Right. And in recent history, they've had a problem with dealing with people in the public, especially people with color. This is not,
what law enforcement agency hasn't?
That's true.
Good point.
True. But Grand Rapids has been in the news here a lot. I'm here in Michigan, so I know.
Right.
Yeah. King County, they're in the news often and stuff, and it's,
And see, Ross,
between community members and the police. So
Right.
that's true. It happens.
Yeah. You bring up one of the things that I'm focusing on, and nobody really wants to talk. They call it the warrior mentality that invaded law enforcement. Went from protect and serve and being a guardian. It went into this warrior, mentality, and that has become so pervasive. And the people who have suffered the most since that mentality has come into law enforcement have been Black people.
Yeah.
Because cops, there are a lot of cops out there, and they generally that when they contact a Black person, they don't, there's a what is called a force continuum. It's a pyramid that cops, the level of force you need to use to keep the situation under control. And it starts at the bottom with, just no hand, no contact, no physical contact, just verbal commands. And it works all the way up the pyramid at these different levels until it's at the very top. And the smallest level is deadly force. Well, needless to say, there are cops out there when the first time they contact a Black person, whenever they pull them over, they contact them on the street, they skip all those levels and go directly to deadly force. They're prepared to go to deadly force right off the bat. And that is a problem. And I call that combat mode, and this is and the inverse of that. They give white people they stop the benefit of the doubt. They won't even start at the bottom of the pyramid force continuum. They'll start beneath that and bend over backwards and like, hey, he seems like a good old boy, or he's a good guy. And that's what gets some cops killed, because they're too friendly with their own and they give them the benefit of the doubt. I have several videos of police officers getting killed by suspects, and I have to say, with few exceptions, they were all very friendly with the guy, and the guy took advantage of him.
Somebody thought they could identify with more stuff.
As a matter of fact, a guy I used to work with, he was a motorcycle cop. He and his partner, they were riding home one day, and they stopped these two white guys in a car. And his partner, he says, man, you can go ahead. He tells his partner he can go on. He got these guys, he's going to write him a ticket. They seem like two good old boys. Okay. Soon as his partner drives off and he starts talking to the driver, the passenger gets out of the car, pulls out a gun, shoots him in the head from the other side of the car. Okay. And I bring that up because I read in the news last week that the execution, this guy, he got the death penalty. His execution is coming up.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I really started paying attention, because I used to work, when I worked at the police academy, I worked with the guys that were handled all, the deadly incidents. They handle all cop shootings where cops were either seriously injured or killed. And, they went through this presentation where they talked to the new recruits about all these incidents and how they happened and how to stay safe. And that one stood out to me because of the comment. He said, they're just two good old boys. And so I paid attention to that, and I've been following and I always check when a cop is in an incident, what did this cop do or what did this cop not do that possibly got him killed?
Where did that happen, Greg?
It happened in Houston.
Okay.
It happened in Houston.
Okay.
Now I'm not saying that happens to all the cops getting shot. Obviously cops do everything they can in some situations and it doesn't matter, but my point being is that more often than not, when cops contact Black people, they immediately go to that combat mode and they quickly ascend that force continuum pyramid straight to the deadly force level. And that's a problem.
5, yes. Yeah. Nuclear option.
You have to ask yourself this question. If Black people are truly that dangerous, Black cops should be shooting Black people at least proportionate to their numbers on the department.
You know what? I mentioned that before too. Why doesn't that happen?
It does.
That dangerous. How come you don't see Black cops shooting?
Exactly.
Not to say it doesn't happen at times, but it just,
And it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
You know why it's happening.
And you do know. That's the whole problem.
It does, but.
And I'm going to tell you this. It's not just white cops. It's Asian cops. It's Hispanic cops. A Hispanic cop killed Philando Castillo.
Yeah.
You see, they are just is paranoid. I usually say cops fall into three different categories. There's a good cop, even though a good cop, that term is relative. But you got the good cop, you got the corrupt cop, and you got the cowardly cop. And the cowardly cop and the corrupt cop are the two most dangerous out there on the road.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to contacting us.
That's two of the three.
Two of the three.
You know, so, my neighbors, one of us is a ER physician, and we had this discussion one day before the pandemic when you started seeing some of the rash of shootings and stuff that took place with black men. And Jake asked me, he says, and it was probably a rhetorical question because they're in contact with a lot of different type of people, so they have these discussions probably often too. He was like, why is everyone so afraid, especially the cops, afraid of black people, especially black men? You know, and we're like the boogeyman. If you come in contact with us, you know, because we've always been portrayed as, you know, the big, maybe more athletic, more physically endowed. And if you come in contact with them and stuff, whatever, got to be on your toes and expect a confrontation. And part of that too, I think, is almost like trophydom. You know, if hey, I took that big black dude down. You know, and that's why I see interactions look like subjugation moves. Like,
it doesn't have to be
in your place. Listen to everything that I tell you. You do exactly what I say.
It doesn't have to be a big black guy, Ross.
Well,
somebody like Laquan, and I'm gonna bring up these others. Listen, Laquan McDonald in Chicago. Here's a guy, obviously he's under the influence of something, or he's having issues.
Yes.
He's walking down the street, and he had at least two cops following him for over a mile.
Right.
He's walking down the street, excuse me. And he's got the cop following for over a mile. Then when they get more units over there, all other cops are watching him walk down the street. But this one cop feels the need to jump out of the car and shoot him multiple times. Now, if he was I was scared for my partner. I was trying to protect my partner. No, you were trying to impress those other cops.
Yes.
Because if he was that much of a threat, the other cops would have been shooting at him too, and they weren't. Right. So that was all on you, and you were just trying to impress. Hey, I'm gonna show them, like you said, I'm gonna take one of them down. You know, like it's a badge of honor.
Right. And I remember Greg too. After the Ferguson incident with Mr. Brown, there was another gentleman who was killed a week after that. Older guy. I think he had taken some items from the store, but it was all food, so he's obviously hungry. A lot of poor people in the area, 67% black. The political infrastructure is messed up because they feed on them for their revenue from the city.
Exactly.
And I'm watching them. I don't even know if the guy had a weapon. Maybe he had a little bit of knife, but it was a good distance. He was arguing, why are you messing with me this? And he ends up getting shot. And in a lot of these incidents with Laquan, too, as he's walking down the street and this guy jumps out and shoots them. Are you guys ever trained in certain instances that even if you do fire on somebody, you may not have to use deadly force? I mean, you can shoot him in the leg. You know, can you files on that? I mean, he's not a threat. He can't, even if he has a knife in his hand, you got a distance from him and stuff. You know, is it necessary? Can you wound him? I mean, you know, the cops shoot well enough. I mean, you can just point down to the bottom, shoot him in the foot or something. Is there any training that ever goes on like that? Because I've never heard of it. You know.
Okay. Well, let me say this about that. Cops are not trained to wound. Cops are trained to stop the threat. Okay. We are not trained, or they don't train police officers to shoot people in the foot, to shoot people in the arm. They don't even teach cops to shoot, you know, generally as a rule, not to shoot in the head, because the head is a smaller target. You want to shoot at the biggest part of the body, which is center mass in the chest. That's where the training is usually directed. Okay. Now, am I saying that it's not a possibility you can shoot him in the arm? Yeah. Or shoot him in the leg? Yeah, it's a possibility. I never thought about it. But
Yeah.
when you're in the heat of battle and you need to stop somebody from doing what they're doing right now, and your life or somebody else's life is being threatened, you're trying to stop it.
I've never been in that situation before, so that's why I wouldn't. I can speculate and say, just like the young lady that was killed that attacked one other lady and stuff. I don't know if she was about to stab her, and the cop was standing there and fired on her.
Yeah. I know an
Remember
incident.
that,
Yeah, and she was actually the woman that called.
Else, then you could do that. But it's
she was actually
where. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was actually. I don't. It was either her or a family member. They were the ones that called the police to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
But did you watch that video?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why the cop did what he did.
Yeah, he had to, because I mean,
she was going to stab her.
Yep.
Yes, he was about to stab her for real. He was too far away. I ain't gonna get that close to a knife anyway. He got a gun in his hand, so
right.
He might have got cut. He did what he had to do. I agree with that.
Well, it's just another case where, case after case after case, we're treated less than human.
Yeah.
They don't consider us humans. They don't consider us people. You got good and bad in every race, but like you said, it's always us that gets executed.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Does the execution fit the crime?
No.
All right. You steal a bag of chips, you get manhandled.
Mm-hmm.
You pass a $20 supposedly counterfeit bill, you get choked to death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just, and how many times have we seen, just like the two kids that were fighting in the mall, one white kid is sitting on the bench chilling, and the black kid is this manhandled.
Exactly.
So again,
the smaller kid too. The smaller kid.
Yeah, smaller kid.
Maybe they imagined that he was a big black.
That's it. Yeah. And what? Let me say this about. I want to say this when you talk about that fear that cops had toward black people. It's not just white cops or, as I said, Hispanics or Asians or any other race of cop for that matter. It's the public. Period.
Right. It's how we're.
That fear. I'm going to tell you. As I said, I worked at the police academy. We used to do this exercise called shoot, don't shoot. And we had on the academy grounds, we called it a hotel. It was a little 3-story building. And it had numerous rooms. And what we would do is we would run the cadets through this house or this hotel from top to bottom. They go in all these different rooms, and it was something going on, whether it was domestic violence or stab or robbery. And they had to make this, they got all this noise behind them, and they're being pushed by these other two counselors, instructors saying, come on, make a decision. You got to make that decision. Shoot. Are you going to shoot this person or not? If the person complies, you're going to shoot them still. Well, it was one scenario where they had the black cop, and I played the black cop because I was black. I played the black cop on this several times. And basically, I had a white guy up against the wall, and he was fighting, trying to push off. And I got my back to the door. So when the cadet comes in, they see me with this guy up against the wall, and I show him a badge, and I got my hand up against the wall, got his hand up against the wall, and I got a gun. And do you know that 90% of the cadets that came through there shot me every single time?
Wow.
Wow. And the two guys that ran, wait, there's more.
There's more.
The two guys, white instructors who had been running this scenario, this exercise for years, even before I got to the academy, they always said, they always shoot the black guy. They always shoot the black guy.
Wow.
They never bring, and I always remembered, and I talked to the black cadets, like Troy, who's the chief of Houston right now. I told him the same thing. You have to, as a black cop, you have to be aware of the fact, and this goes for people that are licensed to carry weapons, black people who are carrying concealed. We're going to get into that later. You don't ever think you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. Because too many black cops and too many black people who are licensed to carry have been shot by police and civilians. You know,
Yep.
now a follow-up to that story that I just told you, the two guys that ran this exercise, they said, Greg, you know, we run the Citizens Police Academy through this exercise. They said, we want you to come out. Could you come out and help us with that when we run them through and do this? I said, yeah. So I would do. And man, all the white citizens that came through there, the Hispanic citizens, the Asian citizens, they did the same thing. They always shot the black guy. Didn't pay attention to the badge. And you know, I'm telling them, I'm a police officer. I'm a police. They didn't pay, you know, now I didn't have a uniform on. I was in plain clothes. Don't get me wrong. But still didn't matter. They shot me. None of them said, drop the gun, put the badge. None of them said any of that. They just came in, they looked. You can see some of them thought about it, then they fired.
Did anything ever come of that?
No. Well, other than some people will be embarrassed because I never took it as if I ever got a chance to speak on it, I addressed it. And I said, and I told him, I said, it's a shame. I said, you let your biases stand in the way and you can kill an innocent person just like you did today.
Greg, that by itself speaks volumes.
It does.
Yes, it does.
What you just talked about, but just if anything else comes of everything that we talk about, that by itself needs to be in every police department training, FBI, every law enforcement agency. Because again, how do you stop that? And I'm sure most of these cops or cadets went on to be cops, correct?
Right. That's what they were training for. Now, Kent, a lot of agencies have this training. Now, it's been years since I've done it. You know, I don't know how much they've changed it or, you know, what they've done to improve it. But it's obvious that even the most unbiased person can slip up, okay, and make a mistake, just overreact, but not with that level of consistency.
Right.
90%?
They're police. They're being trained to be police officers. This ain't, you know, me and Ross and Roger who don't have law enforcement experience.
Right.
These are people I'm paying my taxes for to protect and serve my community. So if I walk outside with a gun in my house after somebody breaks in, they're going to shoot me.
Exactly.
That's a problem. That's a bigger problem.
It is a bigger problem.
That's happened before too much.
It has. Yeah. You have to stop and think. There have been black security guards who are arresting suspects from a shooting that have been killed by the police.
Yeah.
So, you know, my son is doing that. So that concerns me.
Yep. It should. It should concern all of us. As I said, this project I'm working on, this is just what I'm going to address. And when we get into carry and conceal while black, we're going to address it even more. But you have to be aware that anytime you come in contact with the police, there's the potential for you to lose your life for one simple fact. You don't know what kind of cop you're getting.
Right.
And see, when a cop gets out of the car, you can tell pretty much how it's going to go by his attitude and his tone. You know, if he comes across as being very abrasive, you know, it's nothing you can say to this guy that's going to change anything. No civilian wins an argument with a cop on the street. So it doesn't make any sense to try.
Right.
Running makes no sense at all. Because where are you going to run?
They see it on TV. They see it on TV. You know,
and the thing is, you might get away today, but they're going to catch up with you.
Right. And if there's something egregious that's going on, you know, live to tell about it. You can fight it later and stuff, whatever. You might put some money in your pocket.
Exactly. Well, not just that. When you die, you don't get to tell your side of the story.
Right.
So why put yourself in a position to kill? It's only going to be the cop in the courtroom with a jury of his or her peers, not your peers, their own peers. This is why so many cops get off in the first place, because there are people that sit on that jury and, well, I would have done the same thing if I saw that black guy, you know, and they sit there and agree. Yeah, I agree with them, you know.
Well, you know, they see us as not human, like I said earlier. They see us as a black person, a black man. We're the biggest threat.
Yep.
You know, we walk down the street, people lock their car doors. they do a double take. And then you get some homicidal white guy, Ted Bundy like, looks clean cut, looks this, looks that, biggest serial killer out. So again, we need to change that perception of us. But how do we do that? Again, that's not on us. That's on white America. That's on anybody non-black to start educating their own kids, start educating themselves.
Right.
Because we're not the problem. We shouldn't have to fix the problem.
No, we shouldn't.
That's funny. I was talking about that earlier today too, and yesterday too, because a couple of comments have been made to me in the past. They were like, well, Ross, you're really good with people. You're articulate. Maybe you should get some guys together and, some brothers together and stuff and help them navigate, the world in which they live so they become, more productive and don't get into situations that they're in. And I had to bite my tongue for a second because I could be quite abrasive. I was like, and just like Kent said, I was like, we're not the problem.
Right.
We're not the problem. We are not the problem. We've been told we've been the problem for something. We're not the problem. It's so obvious.
Well, we are the problem in the sense that we put ourselves in a position to get killed.
Yeah. Yep.
This is what that part of the problem we are responsible for working.
Absolutely.
Yep. Right. We have to do a better job of training our own to protect themselves and how to stay safe when they deal with cops.
Yep. Yeah.
And how to deal with the public in general.
Exactly. Exactly.
You can't go into a grocery store and intimidate the clerk.
No.
Because, if he's, in a certain area, he might pull out his gun and shoot you.
Exactly. And it has happened. It has happened. Rod, you got a question?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, that I started to educate working with young adults on. And a lot of it also has to do with, and I tell people, do not go for the popular person. Mm-hmm. But we got to start with the districts of these aldermen and put the right people in office because, quite honestly, who you put in office, they set things out to whom they may know and who they have partnerships with. And they create this monstrosity of things continuing to go on. Mm-hmm. And so I've been, you work with young people and in the younger population, Gen Z, as they call them, educate them on the importance that your vote does count and do your homework on who you see going into office. Even though we have these local, you have your local polls and people who you're voting in office. I say it's important for you to know who's sitting in these seats because those types of influence have oversee to mayors have oversee to police departments. So who you have in these positions that's the place to start, because if you start from the root, because if there's corrupt politicians in office, then you're going to have corrupt vines that are connected to that root. And so that's one of the places that I've paid very close attention to, and I'm actually working with a woman who is actually running for congressional district for the House of Representatives here in the state of Illinois. And there's things that I've shared with her about things that I would like to see take place as far as the state because of what's happening in Chicago, not so much the suburbs. And so, I'll be doing some volunteer work with her. It's an African-American woman, by the way. And, but there's some things that she said she's going to have me come to, and I'm going to speak about certain things just because of the things that I see go on. And also, there, unfortunately, some of the churches have not been proactive in really speaking from a spiritual perspective, and especially with the influence that they can have with these political parties. These are the conversations and chats people need to have instead of being so caught up in, what's in it for me. If you're tired of seeing these things, start at the root. Look at who we're putting in office. Secondly, see about these community organization groups who we can recruit to help make these differences, and then of course, these people have the power to change what happens in these law enforcement precincts and who's out there on the foot and who's and all of these things. So I've been, ever since, we've gotten together on this podcast, I've been doing my research and homework because I said, man, we got to get to some level of depth of really researching and seeing where's the root, where can we actually kill it at the root? And this is, that's one of the places that I see. So I'm going to continue to, see what I can offer and support to her. Her name is Karen Reeves. And so I'm looking at what are some things that I can eventually see and things that she's sharing with me that she's getting from up above. So how we can implement those things, because if we can create that, then I'll share these ideas and see how we can help all our individual cities and what we can do differently. Because if it just starts with a small group like that, that's all it takes, and then we grow from there.
That's true. That's very true. And,
Roger,
what?
Go ahead,
bro.
No, I'll say Roger has once again hit it right on the head. I've been giving deep thought to that too, because see, in order for change to take place with all these issues that we have, there has to be policy changes. There has to be policies that are put in place. That starts with the political autonomy. Roger hit it right on the head. Even if it starts with the aldermen and stuff, whatever, it has to be some organization and then some focus on legislative changes, if that's what it is. But it has to be some policies in place that you're after in order to invoke these changes. That makes a lot of sense right there. To me, that's the only solution that I can see that's feasible, where we can get some change.
And I agree with all that, but it also starts at the grassroots in terms of what are we teaching our youth and ourselves. That's where you can have the greatest level of impact, because everything else, like what you guys spoke of, going through the political bureaucracy, is going to take some time.
Yes.
Where we could have an immediate impact on training these kids, And Roger, you brought up a great point about the churches being involved, because it's been my experience, like you said, I've dealt with some churches, it's like, well, what's in it for me? And not what's in it for the community. They're not concerned. And Kent, you and I have had this discussion several times, and how angry I get when I run across these Black churches that have no concern about social justice, or this is supposed to be your flock, but you don't care about protecting your flock, and you're supposed to be the shepherd. The church used to lead. Our greatest strength as a people was our fight for justice. And we've gotten completely away from that in so many areas. We don't fight for justice. I'm protecting what I got. I'm taking care of my own. Here, focus on this over here. You can get all the degrees and all the money you can possibly make, and a bad cop can take it away from you in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. It's just like Shaq made that comment. Well, I don't have that problem. Yeah, Shaq, you don't have that problem yet. What about your kids? Everybody knows Shaq. You see what I'm saying? But I tell you what, if Shaq wasn't well known, as big as you are, you wouldn't be as old as you are now, because I guarantee you the cops would have taken your butt out. Just one crazy cop would have stopped and saw how big you were, and then all of a sudden, it's all over for Shaq.
Right.
So don't sit up here and tell me from a position like that, well, I don't never had any problems. You just do what they, and there's another thing. No white person or any other race has any business telling us how we should be acting around the police, because you don't go through what we go through when we had contact with the police. I see that same comment all the time when I see something. Well, if he just did what the cop said, no, that works for you. That doesn't work for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I said we got to educate the white folks, and there's a lot of good white folks out there who do get it. Like I said, plenty have reached out to me. What can I do? I said, well, you need to educate. When you go to the family barbecue on the weekend, and cousin Skeeter got a couple of cold ones. Yeah. He starts going off. You need to stop him and educate him. So the root is racism.
Exactly.
The root is the old mentality that has been going on for not decades,
centuries.
Okay. Since the inception of this country, we never dealt with what went on after. We never dealt with what went on after the Civil War. We never dealt with that properly. The South never should have been given. I want to change the subject, but the South should have never been given that deference to survive the way that it did and to invoke some of the stuff that they have, that has led to the point where we are right now. That never should have happened. Those were traitors. You don't treat traitors like that, like heroes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Right.
Listen, those who forget history doomed to repeat
it.
And what happened on January 6th?
Yep.
Yeah.
Got even worse.
Yeah, it sure
did. The Confederate Army back then didn't even carry a Confederate flag in the White House. These people did. I'm like,
exactly.
This is how it
goes. And don't think we're so naive and stupid when they talk about having a civil war. That's just a code word or code term for race war.
Yeah,
that's what they mean by civil war.
Right.
Well, and
that's
again,
what the first one was part about.
Go back to Trump's slogan. Make America great again. He means make America white again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it real. I get tired of people defending, it seems Fox News or some of these other entities. I think I faded out.
No, you didn't.
No, you're here.
Okay. These other entities, they make excuses. Trump organized that whole fiasco on January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
He called it out before, you guys get ready, or however he said that term, so we knew this was coming. We as Black people knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And now all these people are getting arrested, getting thrown in jail. If it had been a Black mob who stormed like those people did, we would have been executed, picked off one by one.
Well, wait a minute, because we got to bring this back onto the main topic tonight. But let me say this. One, the person that received the harshest penalty so far is a Black guy.
Yeah.
He got the longest.
Right.
Yeah. But the thing that is overlooked and not focused on as much as it should have been or should be is how many cops were there.
Yes.
And you had cops attacking cops.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's one surprising side. The other surprising side about it is that you did not have widespread condemnation from all these fraternal police organizations or any of these news about these cops, these insurrectionist cops attacking cops who were just trying to do their job. They kept their mouths shut.
Yeah.
Why?
And that goes back to my main point. Racism is alive and well. It hasn't gone anywhere. And nothing's going to get fixed till it gets addressed and just basically cut that serpent off at the head.
Yeah.
And I don't know in our lifetime if we're going to see that, guys.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic, but there's so much racism and hatred and fear of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
This problem is not going to go away. So what do we do to fix it? What can we do to make some type of impact?
Well, the first thing we got to do is be smarter than how we've been. Do things.
Exactly.
We're going about all this the wrong way. And I brought this up before. A lot of these kids out here that are having these issues with the cops, they have what I call that gangster hip hop, thug bravado mentality.
Right. Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't care if you do, well, I ain't going to let it be 30. No, well, you shouldn't have such a defeatist attitude about your life. You should be looking to live as long as you possibly can. And challenging the cops ain't the way to go about it.
No.
And the thing is, we need to help these kids rein in their egos, their arrogance, and most importantly, their criminal behavior in some cases.
Yeah.
Because it's not only impacting them, it's impacting the wider Black community. Because, you pick up the paper every day. I know I've seen some articles about how Black Lives Matter is not addressing all the Black on Black crime. And I can't disagree with that.
Right.
We should all be addressing the Black on Black crime.
Yeah, we need to talk about that Black on Black crime more.
Yeah. I mean, if the Black race is a body, we got to heal the body first.
Right.
And we have to take, and it comes to addressing these issues with these kids and everything else, and we have to be honest with them. We have to tell them, like the talk gives you up, be respectful. Don't move. You can do everything you possibly can to not to be non-threatening to a police officer, and you can still get killed.
Right.
Because it comes down to the type of cop that gets out of that car. What type of cop are you getting? And you have to be prepared to deal with any kind of cop that gets out of that car. It's that simple. We have to be smarter about these things. And we're not being smart. You know, and let me say this, because I told you guys before when Dante Wright got killed, what his mother and his sister said about, well, because we were lighter or biracial, we didn't think it would, you know, we'd be that threatening to the police officer. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the same mentality that some of these I call ocean blacks, when they come to this country, they had the same mentality. Well, we're not like them. So they want to pay. Botham Jean is a perfect example.
Yeah.
And this man is in his own house. You better, and my message to all of them is you better get on board. Because guess what?
Right.
When the cop gets out of the car, he ain't checking your immigration status or your passport to see where you from. All he sees is black.
All he sees is that melanin in your skin.
Exactly.
That's what he's looking
No
at.
matter.
So if you think you can separate yourselves from us and you're going to be all right, you just got an important lesson last week.
That's so delusional. Yeah, don't.
Like I said, get on board. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, too many forget. Too many
forget.
It doesn't matter how big a house you live in, what car you drive. You're going to be touched with this issue somewhere in your life.
Somewhere in your life. Just keep, like my old man say, just keep on living. If it hadn't happened to you, just keep on living.
Absolutely.
But like I said, what can we do now? You know, and well, wait a minute. Before we continue on that, Ken, I want to go back to something you've been saying. They don't see us as human, you know, and that is so true. I sent you guys that story where the cop shot into the black lady's car 30 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Wow.
Her grandmother.
Right.
Yeah.
And my thing is, one thing that sets me off more so than anything else is the mistreatment of black women. And I don't care who's doing the mistreatment. And you know, like we always say, you know, if that woman had been white, that wouldn't have happened that way.
Right.
But the mere fact that you did not take that woman's humanity into consideration before you emptied one clip, reloaded and emptied another. When it was very simple, all you had to do was get out of the way. You know, and like they said, the woman was driving away and he still continued to fire into her car and killed her. You know, and see, those are the type of things that show you that there are those in law enforcement that don't see us as human and don't respect our humanity. Now, right before I got on this call, I had another story came across where the cops arrested a 10-year-old boy up in New York, and it's on video. They arrested him. It was New York, Kent?
I think it was up north. Yeah. I'll try to find it. But yeah. Stealing a bag of chips.
Stealing a bag of chips. And they manhandled this kid.
Snatched him off a bike. I think he was.
Yeah, snatched him off a bike. That was it. And like the guy who was filming it, he got on it. And I'm glad he did. The brother that was filming it. But you treated the kid like he's a grown man.
Yeah. It's a kid.
A little kid. All right. He stole some chips. You know, scaring. But to manhandle them like they did, and again, the brother that stood up for him said, "Hey, he stole some chips. I'll pay for the chips."
Exactly.
You know? Right.
You know, don't treat him like a grown ass man.
That's not the first time, and it's not the last.
No. And the kid was balling too.
He was.
Yeah.
Promoted and stuff, and you know.
Well,
and
you know.
If you're trying to scam straight a little bit like that, you know, at least console him afterwards. I mean, 'cause I don't think they ever cuffed him and stuff, but they pulled him out of there and just traumatized him over a bag of chips. Are you serious? And I didn't see the film, but it sounded like the way the way the cops snatched him off the bike too was kind of violent and stuff. So,
And Ross, you brought up a great point. So that kid, how is he going to feel when he gets older, starts driving, and he gets pulled over by the police?
Oh,
right.
please.
Because that does not leave you.
No.
First time I was around that age, the first time I got pulled over by the cops, me and Peter and Brian, I ain't naming the last names. A couple of them are dead now. We were going on a little excursion downtown in the city that we live in to go to the library, to Hoyt Library. And we were walking past this Mercedes-Benz dealership. It had some old model Mercedes-Benz in a display window. And there was a group of white guys there, young white kids, probably a little bit older than us, that were standing at the window, Google and goggling over and stuff, whatever. So, we didn't want to, they were enjoying it and stuff, whatever. So we wanted to stop. We went on our way. And on our way back, it was like, hey, let's go stop and look at those Mercedes-Benz. So we go up and we're pretty much doing the same thing. Wow, I like that car right there. We leave out of the downtown area that we're in to go back to our homes. Now, I'm like maybe 9 or 10 years old, maybe 10 years old or stuff, whatever. To go back into our neighborhood, all of a sudden the cops pull up, got us up against the wall, didn't even tell us why we were stopped, started asking questions. And me, my smart butt and stuff, I'm like, well, my parents told me I can't talk to strangers. But all the other kids in my group, they were scared as heck. They were nervous. I had uncles that were police officers, so I dropped one of my uncle's names, they let us go. But if I hadn't said my uncle's name, I mean, come on. And I didn't have any fear because I had been around them that much too, and I knew how some of them would act. But to scare these up, Peter and everybody else, I mean, that traumatized them for the rest of their lives and stuff. I saw them years later. It's like, man, I remember we got pulled over by a policeman. I thought I was going to pee my pants. I'm like, you don't do that to a kid. You just don't do those things. And that's what you said earlier too. They don't look at us, even if we're kids, they don't even respect us as being humans.
And see, that's my point. So if you traumatize a kid like that, so when he gets to be an adult, what is the first reaction? I need to get away from the police.
Right. Exactly.
I got them thoughts from when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm just looking at a story I got from News One that says 4 Black children traumatized after police encounter. And it's happened in Minnesota, in Maplewood, Minnesota, where they detained and handcuffed 4 kids ages 10 to 16 after reports of they heard gunshots in an area nearby.
Really?
Isn't that something?
Did they find any guns on the kids?
No, the kids weren't involved. They told them we were at McDonald's and we just left. They even showed the cops the receipts, and the cops said, well, they could have dumped the guns. You just made a friend. You got to remember, the Black community never left the police department. The police department left the Black community.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Well, it's all about, and again, Greg, what you're doing, we got to continue to educate.
Yeah.
Every chance I get, I'm talking to more young adults. But again, like we're talking about now, it's going to start with talking to kids. How you act, react, don't make the situation worse because you don't know who you're dealing with.
You don't.
And we're dealing with so much. It's beyond comprehension.
It is.
It
is. But it's a testament to the resiliency of our people.
Which we've always been resilient.
We've always been resilient.
But it's
obviously one of the things that we could do, and it just occurred to me because a lot of these districts and communities have a significant number of what we call town hall meetings. And with the ideal of where if we're targeting and we want to do some things for a lot of our young male youth. So I suggest instead of, like a lot of times we may take them to play basketball or a Bulls game, a Pistons game or wherever. How about when they have these town hall meetings, let's take them there so they can actually hear these political figures speak, talk about what the aldermen talk about, and then say, hey, we have some young people in the audience, and so they can actually address their concerns, things that they've experienced. Because, there'll be police there too. Why not involve all the parties together in one room where it's civilized? So you can hear everybody's perspective on what's going on out there, because if we can continue to congregate together to form our own, but unless we get everybody in the same room under some form of civilized manner, such as a town hall meeting or, some type of symposium, we can create the opportunity for some type of communication to begin. But, again, it's like they know and I'm speaking from, I got to speak from a spiritual perspective, because there's a lot of generational curses that pass down from one generation to the next. And deep down, we as African-American people are the strongest race, number one, that has thrived through so much. Secondly,
Amen.
And then the second thing is, what I've understood is we are the only race. I found this out about a year ago. I forgot whom I had a conversation with a pastor, and I researched. I got to look for it in the Bible, but there's some form of historical perspective that when you look at every ethnicity, and it goes all the way back to even the creation of time when God created, heaven and earth. We are the only race of people that have never blamed God. We have the strongest roots tied all the way back to mankind. And because if you look and study back the time frame of how everything generated, the reason why there's so many various nationalities, because when people migrated, when people start populating the earth, sunlight, weather changes started to change the hue of everybody's skin, and especially designated areas. But the root and the benefit, the origin of where strength has came from, the embodiment of what has built this country, let alone this world, have been Black people, going all the way back to those of the Kush tribe and all of those others. And that is because of the roots that have been so strong, and because of the fact that no matter what generations come across, they no matter what they try to do, they can't kill us. And it irritates them. It frustrates them. It scares them. And I have to say, they know their time is up, because God is changing the guards. All of us have been last of color. Everybody's transitioned on the first. Look at how we dominate sports, but now we're starting to dominate education. Now look what's happening in the government. Look what's happening. I tell these young people, I tell them all the time, pay very close attention. Watch the people and aspects beyond music and sports. Look what these other people are doing, and we create this image in their mind. You don't have to live fast because you're not going to die young. Once we instill that in their heads, you can see all these representations that God is allowing people to see. Then they'll say, hey, you know what? I do have the opportunity. And that'll be another place for us to see the shift happen.
Now, I'm going to interject. Roger brought up some very strong points. First he talked about symposium. He talked about going to, town hall meetings. I agree. I'm going to take it a step further. Get into your school board meetings, because stuff is happening in schools too. They're trying to get rid of the history lessons that, have talked about the systemic racism, and Roger brought up the good point about, biblical from the spiritual aspect, these generational curses. Okay. Now the next step, churches have to get more involved. So there's different levels, is basically Roger's saying, and I don't mean to speak for you, Roger, but you talked about a lot of different things there. It's different levels. Some are parallel, and we need to start getting into these different places and like you said, taking some young people, having them watch, listen, and learn, and project our voices. We don't need to go in there with attitudes and screaming and yelling. We don't need to get emotional. We need to go in there, speak facts, speak truth, and talk about this is some of the causes. Here's what we need to do about it. We're just not going to come to you with a problem. We're going to come to you with a solution on how to fix the problem. So I think it's on so many different levels. And, I agree 100% on what Roger was saying. We have to take it a step further. And again, with society being social media, these kids are going to look at social media. They may not have 10 books in their house, but everybody got a cell phone. Okay.
Right.
At least one.
They got a Facebook account. They got an Instagram.
Right.
Do we need to continue to expand education on every platform we can?
I'm glad you said that, Ken. Hit it right on the head.
Yep.
I have been thinking about that for so long. I kind of touched on what Roger said in one of our previous podcasts. And our history here has been so whitewashed, even almost worldwide too. Roger, you hit it. Started from the beginning and stuff, whatever. Starting with Noah and those 4 boys, Canaan, that's Israel. The Jews that are there now, they're transplanted. Those are Eastern European Jews and stuff, whatever. There was so much of, then in order for you to have survived, you had to have melanin in your skin. So there was a time when people who didn't have melanin in their skin, white people, that was a rarity. Like he said, from those few that took off from that area that we came from in Africa and started to, expand outward and get caught up in the ice age, and their noses thinned and they lost the melanin in the skin because the environment that they were in. That's where they come from. Everybody has their origins in Africa with a lot of melanin in their skin. And that's not even taught in school very well. They make it seem as if, we were all created almost at the same time with the same skin tones. That is not true. And I don't want to get too deep into this because I'm already trying to put some things together, even starting from the studies at Yale with the DNA technology right now. We can gauge all of this. It's been done probably about 20 years ago, and it's still not a matter of public education. That's unfortunate. So we see all of this whitewashing of our history and our existence, and now is the time to start to change that so everybody has an understanding of where everyone comes from. And if you want some pride in it, who got here first? We're definitely, that should be a subject matter too. That's something that we can get more in depth in. We can do some research on, and then, like Kent says too, you don't have to present it in such a fashion that you're so prideful and arrogant and stuff that it comes off as being offensive. All you have to do is spit the facts. Simply.
As I said, I'm working on this project, and I'm going to put this, by the time we release this podcast, I'll have the video project up and running, attach the link to it. And it's basically just going to give the viewers some of what we've been discussing today about, what type of cop are you getting? What's the cop's motivation for why they treat us the way they treat us? What you should and what you shouldn't be doing, what you should and shouldn't expect. And just pretty, like I said, stop this information that'll help us stop getting killed by the cops, and if we save one, that's worth it. But I want to take it a step further. I want to find a way that we can get in with some of these social community groups, whether it be churches or, other organizations, where we can sit down with young Black people, especially young Black men, and talk about their experiences that they have with law enforcement and their opinions, and then run them through scenarios and show them just what can happen and how easily a situation can escalate and they can lose their lives, and then give them the stacks and the factual data behind it. That's the goal. That's the goal.
That makes sense. Yeah. We can keep identifying problems, but we got to spend more time now with the solutions too.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because these stories are not going to go away.
No, they're not.
No.
And Greg, I think you hit it right on the head. Getting and Roger, all of us, we start where we are right now. I'm going to make some phone calls myself, even to my church. My church has a long reach. They have a big reach. I know they have, the conference I just went to, my bishop, my pastor, he talked about a lot of these same issues. So, but it's not enough. What else is being done? What else can we do? And I think, Greg, you and others who have this experience that are sharing this type of information, we need to start getting in front of congregations. We need to start getting in front of school boards. Like Roger said, we need to start getting into these these city council meetings,
Town hall meetings.
hall meetings. That's where it's going to start, guys. And then it will branch off from that. Because if it saves one life,
it's worth it.
Yeah, it is. And see, we have to stop waiting for somebody else to do this.
Right.
Yeah, nobody's going to do it for us. That's not going to happen.
You know, we shouldn't be waiting on the police to change. How many of us have to die waiting on the police to change? Well, that's been a great and passionate discussion on everybody's part.
I would say.
Yeah.
But you know that sound like you care.
Yeah. Well, we do. That's the thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is. It's
and the main.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, the main point, all of us, we've lived our life.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
We are all concerned about our children, grandchildren, and all those future generations.
Right.
Yep. We've amassed enough knowledge and experience right now. We ought to share that with as many people as we can to make this place better.
Tell me, and we waste so much time concerning ourselves with this petty crap that they feed us. I mean, tell me how we're talking more about Jada and Will and the slap still weeks after it happened.
Oh my God.
More than we're talking about our people getting killed by the cops.
Right.
Yeah.
And that being said, the people that we talk about with this petty crap, they're the ones that remain silent when this stuff is happening to us.
Don't you notice that?
Right.
Wow.
They got nothing to say.
Nothing to say about,
Because, hey, it wouldn't happen to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and again, that's another strong point.
I've made it past that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not concerned with that. I've made it past that.
Exactly. It's not putting a dime in my pocket.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the fact that we need to get our kids, get this generation off of it's. You know what? The unfortunate thing is too, there's a lot of people even in our age group that are also competing and comparing to other people. Like as far as who got the best this and best that. I'm gonna tell you, I've been watching very carefully and closely about even some of the, a lot of these shows that are out. Reality TV is really messing up the mindset of even people our age, just because women are now entranced by competing and comparing to now women have their age that they have to look a certain way. So they're caring more about hair, makeup. Guys are trying to dress up. I can understand one thing. We are cognizant about our health. It troubles me when I see so many of these senseless shows where a lot of people are spending most of their time getting their fix from these other vices. And because these things, and when it's not ever enough, they keep going these extra miles. That's why you've seen a lot of these celebrities and stars going to the limit where you got girls trying to model themselves after the Kardashians, and and I'm serious. And little Kim is looking like she's almost a werewolf. But it's where it's never enough. And then the bad thing about it is that then these women put themselves out there, and these guys are distracted. So versus them focusing on the purpose of what they need to focus on, they hit it and quit it, like James Brown say. And then these women wind up scarred and hurt. Now you have all these other things that are happening and issues within houses. I said, man, people just need to sometimes really tune out of the first thing in the morning and seeing what somebody else is doing, and look at how you can create this change. That's like I haven't posted much on Facebook in the last month because I'm starting to see, I'm telling this podcast and the men's fellowship I'm on, another night, I just started to say, man, I'm getting older. I'm getting wiser. I don't have time anymore to just be idle. I got 2 sons that are coming up in this world. They're going to make a big difference. And I have to ensure that they are equipped spiritually, mentally, emotionally with everything. And as they've grown up, I've shared with them experiences, even in this basketball circuit that they're in. I'm having them pay attention to everything. even our own people. Then the referee, I'm teaching them so much about what I want them to notice and be aware of. And
Right.
thankfully, I have a very smart wife that also articulates things in regards to finances and balancing money and knowing how to save and all these other things. So, pouring these things into them. So it's and if we can make that effect in our house, then just think about the influx of what we can do to impact other people. Because Ken, you and I seen our dad do amazing things for people
Right.
throughout growing up. I mean, I still to this day got friends
Yep.
from high school and all still talking about my father. And I said, that's the type of like method and approach. I said, man, I'm putting on that mindset now. I'm putting Johnny Fisher combined with my great uncle Noah Fitzgerald. Let me put all that together and really do more. And Greg, I'm so grateful that you created this platform because it creates a readiness in all of us to just go out and say, man, we got so much more to do. And because God is leading us, He's gonna protect us along the way. He's gonna protect our families. And
Amen.
just think the people who associate with us. I think my pastor said it, I believe, or Dr. Darius Daniels said it, because I watched the leadership summit. One of them said, it's your prayers and your fasting that's keeping them safe and covered.
Yeah. I
So
think that
even
was
if they're
Darius.
not, that was
Yeah.
Darius, yeah.
I
When he
think that was
said
him.
that, when he said that, I was like, the Lord put in my spirit. He said, because of your obedience, it's shielding and placing a covering over your bloodline.
Mhm.
And so, and in anybody within the aspects of that bloodline, whether they are following the Christ or not, they're going to be saved too. And I can't tell you many forums that I've been to and places I've gone where there's some that I ain't tell my wife I went to because of the severity of the hostility of the environment, like West Side of Chicago or events I went to. I didn't tell her because I know how she would panic. But I said, I'm going there to do God's work.
Mhm.
And believe you me, I've talked to some of the most challenging people. I've dealt with talking to even cops that may have presented themselves in a certain way, but I had these conversations because I said somebody has to go in there with the assurance of God. If God says go, go do it. So I'm excited about more about what you do with this platform.
Right.
Yeah. And I got to add to that, Roger. Strong message, strong points, because, my pastor basically in his conference said the same thing. He says, if you guys don't go out in the community, if you don't get out and work, make a difference, I've wasted my time. I've wasted my money. He called everybody out. I mean, everybody, people in his own church, other pastors. He said, you guys, you just don't take this information. I ain't here to entertain you. Okay. Yep. I'm here to inform you, educate you. You take what you learn and take it out to the streets. We don't need to be talking about it in the pews. You need to take it outside the church. Okay. So we got to take it outside the church. We may have to go into areas where it's going to be tough. Okay. But we can be that light in the darkness. We just can't go when it's light. We just can't go where it's comfortable. We got to be uncomfortable. We have to go to places where we have to be uncomfortable, okay? Not just comfortable. So that goes right to what you said, Roger.
Absolutely.
Tony Evans said there are three things that you should be looking for when you as a church member, when you join a church. One is if the church is feeding you. Two, are they how the people in the church interact with each other? Are they out saving soul? And three, are they going out making an impact on the community? And by and large, you have to say there are a lot of churches that aren't doing, the community part of it. They might be doing the other two, but being out in the community is what God charged us to do in the first place.
Exactly. And that's why I brought it up. Yep.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, like I said, we can't sit around and wait on that because we all have too much knowledge and experience that we could be sharing and helping the community and helping these kids. Yeah. But anyway, it's good to be blessed with brothers that we can sit down and talk and start, formulating plans to do something.
Amen.
And get the word out and just, put it out there for those. He who has ears, let him hear.
Yeah.
And just get it out there for them, because obviously it's not being the words and the messages they're getting are just corrupting them to the point that they get themselves into trouble.
Yeah.
And we should never be to the point or get to the point that we should be accepting death in our community at anybody's hands.
Right.
Whether it's the police or whether it's somebody within the community. And we should not get to the point where we're desensitized to that. You look at all these protests and this outrage over someone getting killed, you notice these things get smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
You do all this yelling and screaming, but what's changing?
Yeah. It's commonplace.
Yeah.
Until the next time.
Till the next time. But it happens, with such frequency that people are like, well, what are you going to do? We should, all the shootings that they had over this weekend, between shootings in the mall, in the clubs, all these things that where people were shot, some of them lost their lives and shooting. Thankfully, that one in the subway, that's the one. And that was a Trump supporting brother.
Right.
You see, he had been radicalized by the right.
Yeah.
And going out and take these actions, thankfully no one died. I don't think so as a result of his action.
No, I don't think anyone did.
You have to ask yourself, where did this brother disconnect?
Well, that's all throughout history. There's always been people who disconnect.
Yeah, just like Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
They had the same mentality.
Just
like the one brother that always stood at the Trump rallies with the minister. Blacks for Trump. Yeah. All two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, all two of them. No kidding. They get a lot of airplay too.
Yeah, they do. But look who they're getting it from.
Right.
Yeah. So,
it seem like it's more than it actually is. I'm like,
exactly. But then these are the things that we need to be speaking up about and addressing. But at the same time, we also need to be preparing to protect ourselves from it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everybody in the sheep flock ain't a sheep.
Right.
There are wolves walking around in there too, in sheep's clothing.
Right. Beware that one that's going to the outhouse alone.
There you go. All right, gentlemen. As always, it's a great call. I had this up and running. I had a link to my project up when I put the link up for the podcast. Just like I said, this is going to be a brief video, giving information and tips. It'll be the first. So we start putting this information out there, and we look at start expanding it to grow into a program where we can do some education and information and experience sharing.
Sounds good.
That's good.
Anybody want to your closing thoughts?
Hey, just brothers, be safe. Thank God for you three in my life every day.
Amen.
Amen.
Got my brother, got my two oldest friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys are a blessing in my life. You always have been and continue to be a blessing in my life. So I love you guys. We're going to make a difference.
Amen.
Yes, I believe that. This is true.
We keep fighting. We keep fighting for each other. We're here to support one another and our families. And again, let's plan. Let's put it into action. And maybe we can make this world a little bit better place.
Amen.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah, Ross, you got anything?
Hey, I want to reiterate what Kent said. I am so blessed to have you brothers in my life. And thinking about it now, getting to where we are, we've known each other for a long time. I love you guys.
Hey, love you too,
brother.
But I tell you this, what we got going on, and every other week when we meet, this has helped me in my walk with not only the Lord, but just come out of my shell and be more resilient and fulfilling God's work with what I need to do. And I'm not afraid. I said,
wow. Yep.
I know that we all have an expected time on this earth, but I know we have a lot more time because there's a lot of work still left to be done.
Amen.
Yes.
Yep. We all got those influences, and you talk nice things about my family, but Greg's family is impactful on me. So we all intertwine. We're all one family, and we've all picked up stuff from each other's parents. You know, Uncle Rank, Uncle Richard. You know, the list goes on. You know, Shorty and Big Ozell. So hey, you know, we need to pass the torch, keep it moving, and educate and share, because that's those that have moved on to glory. You know, they expect us to continue their tradition and their thoughts, and maybe some things that didn't come to pass while they were with us. You know, we can carry on their legacy by continuing to make a difference.
Amen. All right, guys. A great call as always. You guys have a good week and be blessed and be safe. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Uncle Greg Show podcast. Be sure that you like, share, and subscribe this podcast on all social media platforms. And if you have any comments, feel free to email. The links and details for all social media platforms and email address for the Uncle Greg Show podcast are contained in the details section of each podcast. Thank you for listening and be safe.